So you want to be a better consumer and think like an attorney every time you're about to pay for a good or a service or conduct any business transaction. Okay, in today's video, I'm going to teach you some very important tips that you need to keep in mind every time you're about to pay for a good or a service, no matter how small or big, and think like an attorney in terms of trying to prevent either a fraud, a scam, or trying to avoid having to go to litigation and sue somebody in a court of law. My name is Mehdi Charkawi. I'm a civil litigation attorney in Houston, Texas. My channel provides general litigation information to the public. So if you want to be a better educated citizen about your rights in all aspects of life and be a law-abiding citizen, I ask you to subscribe and let's make a deal. If you like this video and you learn something from it, watch till the end and give it a thumbs up so others can benefit. Now let's get to it. Now, before we get started, remember, I'm not your attorney and this is not legal advice. If you have a legal situation that requires legal advice, I suggest you find an attorney in your local city or state. The first thing you want to think about every time you're about to pay for a product or pay for someone to do something for you, basically providing you a service, is to have a contract. That's the very first thing. Now, ideally, you want to have a written contract. A written contract is basically evidence or proof that the two of you have an agreement, and it should have all the terms of the agreement. Never get into a contract that is lacking in terms of what the description of the product is, the price. If it's a service, then you want to discuss exactly how the service is going to be provided. You want to make sure that the contract talks about the payment plan. You also want to look at the language that's in the contract. And this is very important because sometimes contracts are one-sided or biased, especially if you're doing business with an established company. It could be a medium-sized company or a big company, and they have this boilerplate language that they want to put in there that benefits them. Anything that is pre-printed typically benefits the company that provides this contract. Well, here's the good news. Everything in a contract is negotiable. Just like you negotiate the price of this service or the price of this product, I promise you, you can also negotiate the terms and you can negotiate the language that's in the contract. I'll give you an example. A lot of contracts put a jury waiver clause. That is done by design because companies in general try to avoid having a case that's filed against them in a court of law be heard by a panel of jurors. Because those jurors are also consumers, they likely to have been defrauded or deceived by another company, and they're also likely to side with the plaintiff, and they're likely to award higher damages. Companies like to have a case go before a judge because a judge has heard so many cases in his or her lifetime throughout their career as a judge that they become desensitized when it comes to awarding certain damages to plaintiffs. So as a consumer, you always want to make sure there is not a jury waiver clause in your contract. The way you get rid of it is simply strike across it. It's just that simple. An initial next to it, that tells the company that you don't want to, first of all, that tells the company that you know what you're doing, you're an educated consumer, and you want to preserve your right, which is guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution to have a trial by jury should you need to file a lawsuit against this company. Another example of language that you may not necessarily want in this contract is an arbitration clause. I have another video where I explain what arbitration is and why is it not consumer friendly. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to tell you that you don't want an arbitration clause in your contract because it tends to be one-sided. It's a closed setting or proceeding. There's not an ability to appeal a decision. It's not available to the public. The bottom line is you don't want an arbitration clause in a contract. You can also strike right through that. So again, recapping on the first point, you want to make sure you have a contract. Now, let me add something to the issue of having a contract. you don't have to have a written contract. Now that is ideal, of course, because the contract speaks for itself. It's going to have all the language that is helpful in the event of a dispute. But you can also have a verbal contract, right? The difference is that the written contract, as I said, speaks for itself. You have the evidence in your hand that there is a written contract. A verbal contract is, in most states, just as enforceable as a written contract, except for some specific circumstances, at least here in Texas, that I'm not going to go into in this video, but 99.9% of the time, verbal contracts are just as enforceable as a written contract. The caveat with a verbal contract or verbal agreement is you have to prove it in a court of law. So imagine yourself sitting in front of a juror and you have to describe what this agreement was. If the other side is lying, or if the other side wants to change the facts, well, they can lie, right? And the juror is going to have to determine who's telling the truth or not. They can also deny that an agreement was present, or they can change the terms and lie about the terms that the two of you have agreed upon. So in the event that you are buying a product or trying to get someone to do a service for you and there is no written contract, at least have a follow-up a written follow-up that summarizes what you guys have agreed upon. For example, let's say you have a plumber that you called. He came and gave you an estimate about how much it's going to cost to fix whatever is going on in your house. Then after he gives you a quote, you can simply send him a text message or an email and say, hey, this is what we agreed upon. This is what you're going to do. Here's what you're going to charge me. Is that correct? So ask for a confirmation. And that way, when this person or this company responds, then they are affirming and confirming what you have sent to them in terms of an agreement. So again, make sure you have an agreement. Ideally, it's written, but a verbal agreement sometimes is just as good. Second point, pay with a credit card. Now, before I explore this second point, I want to make sure you understand that I do not condone amassing debt. I do not condone you getting in debt, especially credit card debt that has very high interest rate. I don't condone you paying any kind of interest rate. What I'm about to tell you about paying with a credit card assumes that you are going to pay for whatever product or service in cash, or you're going to write a check. So you already have the funds to pay for this product or this service, but instead of writing a check or giving cash, I urge you to pay with a credit card. Why? Well, most consumers, they underestimate the value that a credit card company provides with their fraud protection programs. So most credit cards come with a fraud protection program that protects the consumer in the event they use their credit card to pay for either a product or service that ends up being a fraud or a scam. Now remember, I said credit card, not debit card. Some debit cards do not have that protection. It's mainly credit cards, probably exclusively credit cards, that offer that option. So as I said before, this is assuming that you do have the funds to pay for this with a credit card. So like I said before, this is assuming you do have the funds to pay for the good or the service. You just put it on a credit card to take advantage of the fraud protection, and you're paying it off at the end of the month. The other benefit that you get out of paying with a credit card is, of course, you get the points or miles or however your credit card issuer rewards you for spending on the credit card. But most importantly, from a legal standpoint, you have this layer of protection, this first layer of protection against an individual or against company to whom you're paying a certain amount of money. You want to make sure you're protected, because once you feel that you've been scammed, or you feel that you're not getting the service or the quality product that you paid for, you can call your bank and open a case, a fraud case with them. Give them the information that you need. A lot of times they will look at it and reverse the charge and put the money in your bank account. Third point I want you to think about to become a better consumer is do business with a reputable company. Now, we all like a bargain when it comes to buying something online or getting a service for the house. And by a service provider, I mean anything from a plumber to an electrician to a landscaper to even a doctor or a lawyer. We all like a good bargain. I myself like to shop around and get the best deal I can get. But let me assure you that when it comes to doing business in terms of getting a service done that is fairly important, maybe that involves your house, or perhaps it involves your vehicle, or getting a product that is fairly expensive, you want to do business with a reputable company. Here's what I mean by that. Ask yourself a question. This person that's coming to my house to fix my AC, or fix my washer and dryer, or this mechanic that I'm taking the car to, or this dealership that I'm gonna buy a car from, do they have anything to lose? If the answer is no, then you want to run away as far as and as fast as possible and go deal with a company that actually does have something to lose. An example of companies like that are basically companies that are established online. They have an online presence, they have a website, and hopefully throughout the years of looking at so many websites, you can tell the difference between a scammy website and a real website. The company has reviews. You can check the Better Business Bureau and see if they have any complaints and how they dealt with the complaints, because most companies are going to have complaints. The question is, how do they deal with them? Look at the Google reviews and look at the bad reviews, and also look at how the company responded. And make sure that the company has, perhaps, if you can find a company that has assets, right? So for example, if you're looking for a plumber or an electrician, I would encourage you to deal with a company that advertises on your local TV. They have multiple vans, multiple locations. Their employees have uniforms and with a company logo on their shirt. They are insured, they are bonded. Now, you may pay a little bit more for this company, but think of that increase in cost as an insurance policy. Because if you hire somebody off Craigslist that's gonna come and they're gonna screw up whatever they're gonna work on, or they're gonna get paid and not do the job or sell you the product that you need, then you're absolutely out of luck. Because sure, you can sue this person. The question is, can you recover? Can you execute a judgment if you actually win a lawsuit against this person? Or are they just gonna disappear and you'll never hear from them again? At least with a company, you may not get to the lawsuit phase because they're gonna wanna protect their reputation. They don't want a bad review. They don't wanna complain with the BBB. And certainly they don't want a lawsuit. So they're gonna try to resolve this matter with you much quicker than someone that you hire off the street or hire off Craigslist that's giving you an incredible deal. So absolutely make sure you keep that in mind. And fortunately, a lot of times, if you hire someone to do a service and they scam you, they can literally take your money, and the local police or the district attorney will refuse to prosecute them criminally, and the only other avenue to get your money back is to sue them in civil court. And that is a nightmare against someone that has absolutely nothing to lose. So again, do business with a company that may be a little bit more expensive, but is reputable, has something to lose, and has assets in the event that you need to execute on a judgment if you sue and win. The fourth point is make sure there's always some type of refund policy or satisfaction guarantee, no matter who you deal with. Right? So make sure that there is language. We talked about having a written contract before. Make sure there is language there that says if you're not satisfied about this product or this service, you're entitled to a refund, or you're entitled to someone else coming back to repair this vehicle, or you're entitled to give the vehicle back in the case you bought a car from a dealership. I get calls all the time in my office from individuals that have the money, have good credit. For some odd reason, they go and buy a car from a shady corner lot used car dealership that not only has higher prices, but is likely to scam you and charge you high interest rate and sell you a lemon. And I keep telling them that the first mistake is that you bought a vehicle from a dealership like this. Now, I don't know if it was cheaper or not, but certainly when it comes to buying cars, you want to buy a car from a franchise dealer. Going back to the issue of an established company that has something to lose, a franchise dealer is likely to work out whatever situation you may have, as opposed to a corner lot that as soon as you call my office, I send them a demand letter from an attorney's office, they're gonna shut down and disappear and move to another city or state. Whenever you buy a product or a service, make sure that there is a refund policy that guarantees you some relief, so that you're able to either send back the product and get a replacement, or get the service redone again to your satisfaction. On a side note, that's why I love using Amazon. Now, this video is not sponsored by Amazon or anything like that, but on a personal basis, I like to use Amazon because they have some of the best customer service. I mean, all you have to do is just say, I don't like this product. It's not good enough. It's not as described. It's not doing what the seller said it was supposed to do, and they'll take it back, no questions asked. That's the level of service that you want to have with either a service provider or a seller that you do business with. So again, make sure that there is some type of refund policy or satisfaction guarantee in the contract or the agreement. The fifth point is, if you can, pay for your service in installment. Now, this works specifically for services. Going back to the example of you need to get your AC fixed, or you need to get your vehicle fixed, or you need to get have some electrical work done in the house. It's better that you can agree with the service provider to split the payments up. For example, if somebody's coming to install a new air conditioning system in your house, and let's say they're gonna charge you $5,000. How about you agree that before they get started, you give them $1,000, and perhaps halfway through the work, you give them another $1,000, and then at the end of their work, once you're satisfied and everything is tested and it works perfectly to your satisfaction, then you can pay them the rest. What this does, this minimizes your chances of losing all of your money. So be wary of any kind of service provider, whether it's an attorney or it's a electrician or a AC repair person that asks for the money up front. You are increasing your chances of never seeing that money again, and increasing your chances of losing it in the event of a scam. Another reason why you want to split up the payments is this. Think about motivation. Let's say that you are making an addition to your property, and you're building an additional structure outside. It could be, let's say, a pool, or it could be extra space for an office, and you hired a contractor to do the work. Well, imagine if you paid the contractor all the money up front, and this process perhaps takes 30 days. This contractor may, if they don't scam you and if they don't take your money, they just may lose motivation, because that money is already in the books. It's already been deposited. Maybe they already spent it, and now they may lose motivation. Now, of course, that's not the case for a lot of companies, but there are some companies that will lose motivation because they don't have some type of payment that is they can look forward to once the job is done. This also goes for attorneys. Sometimes attorneys, if the case goes for a while and you're paying them with a flat fee, if you pay all the money up front and the case lasts a year, they may tend to lose motivation and say, well, I've been paid on this case 9 months ago, a year ago, and I'm still working on it, as opposed to having some type of agreement where you would compensate this attorney at 30% or 40%, whatever amount that you guys agree on, to be paid at the end of the case. Same goes with a pool. Make sure that if you are getting a pool done, have a certain amount of money being paid up front, a little bit in the middle, and perhaps the bulk of it, if possible, at the end, after you are satisfied with the good product or service. I hope that today's video was informational. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, and I'll see you on the next one.